Are you struggling to get to sleep at night, or waking up in the early hours, then lying there wide awake with a racing mind? Either way, the end result is the same. You're drifting through the day in a fog with a fuzzy head, and everything feels so much harder when you're tired. Sleep becomes a real challenge for many of us in menopause and beyond. Now, this is the third video in my midlife energy series, and we're covering sleep. So what is sleep? Why don't we get enough sleep, and how we can get more of it, with 5 science-backed tips. Plus, I'll talk you through a really helpful breathing technique I use on restless nights. Hi, I'm Ruth, retired doctor turned health coach, and I make evidence-based content for over 50s women who want better health after menopause. Now, as ever, this video is for general information, not medical advice, because health is personal and context matters. And if you're experiencing severe insomnia or excessive sleepiness in the day, or your partner's told you either stop breathing or gasp or excessively snore at night, it's important that you see your GP or family doctor. Sleep is defined officially as a reversible state of reduced consciousness. But what it really is a time of rest and repair when our brains and bodies carry out that essential maintenance. There are 2 main types of sleep. So firstly, REM sleep, and REM stands for rapid eye movement. That's when the brain is active and we dream, and it's thought to help in processing memories. And then we have the non-REM sleep. This tends to be a deep sleep, and that's that time when the rest and the repair happens. And as we go through a night's sleep, we cycle between the 2. Now, sleep itself is controlled by 2 main things. So firstly, circadian rhythm, and secondly, sleep pressure. So circadian rhythms are the sort of over the day variances in hormone levels and body processes that are aligned to our external environment and affected certainly by the light and dark cycle. And they're all controlled by an area in the brain called the hypothalamus. That's like the body's control and command center. And secondly, we have something called sleep pressure, and that builds up over the day, and it gives you that feeling of wanting to go to bed. And it's caused by the buildup of a metabolite, which is a product of cell metabolism called adenosine, and that builds up in your brain. And then when you sleep, it gets cleared away, ready for the next day. Now, most people need between 7 and 9 hours sleep, and chronic sleep deprivation is associated with a whole host of both physical and mental health issues, including a higher risk of heart disease. Now, sleep gets more difficult as we age for a couple of reasons. Firstly, just naturally as we age, we get less non-REM sleep, so less of that restorative sleep, and we don't sleep for as long. Now, in menopause, declining hormone levels, well, they can have an effect as well, and specifically progesterone is a sleep-enhancing hormone, so we kind of miss it when it's gone. Now, mood disorders like anxiety and depression, well, they're more common in the menopause too. And when you couple that with the additional stresses of life that we get at this time, be it aging parents or troublesome teenagers or busy careers, it can all build up. And like many things, poor sleep is multifactorial, so there's lots of different causes. So what can we do about it? So tip number 1, do you go to bed and wake up at different times every day? Well, that can be counterproductive. So if you remember back to my description of the body clock, so that helps to produce something called melatonin, that's your sleep hormone. And if we get up and go to bed at different times and have a disrupted sleep routine, our body clock can get a bit confused. So conversely, having a regular bedtime and wake up time helps to set your body clock, kind of like an internal alarm clock. So try going to bed and waking up at the same time. Lots of people find this very helpful for setting that sleep routine. And don't make big shifts to your schedule. Just little shifts like 15 to 30 minutes each night will get you there. So tip number 2, does your evening routine help you to wind down, or, be honest, does it just keep your mind buzzing? Now, modern life doesn't really encourage rest. With work emails, social media and late night scrolling, that means that many of us carry the stresses of daytime into our bed. And I'm certainly not immune. Now, I've found my YouTube channel is growing, and I have to be really careful not to check and respond to comments late at night. Now, creating a wind down routine can be really helpful because it lets your brain know that sleep is coming. Now, I had a client who sleep had become a real issue for her. She was between jobs, so had a period outside of work, and her bedtime had got later and later, and she was staying up either watching TV or mucking about on the internet till 3 a.m. and then the next day either sleeping in because she didn't have to get up, or getting up when her partner did and then napping during the day. So we talked it through, and she tried a really simple shift, which was just taking her phone out of the bedroom at night and putting it in the living area, and then having a wind down routine that involved reading before bed. And she came back the next week and was absolutely astonished at the difference just one tiny change had made. She was getting earlier nights, she felt more energetic, and generally was just having better days. So choose to do something really relaxing in that last hour before bed. Reading is good, otherwise a warm bath or some light stretching, maybe some yoga or a little journaling. You don't have to be perfect. What you're looking for is consistency. And if your phone does live beside your bed, perhaps consider a curfew and putting it in another room. By the way, if you're finding these tips helpful, please consider hitting like or sharing with a friend, or come subscribe and join my community of like-minded women supporting each other on our health journey. So tip number 3, what do you do if you're awake with the racing mind at 3 a.m? Well, I'm willing to bet sometimes you lie there simply staring at the ceiling, feeling a bit frustrated, wishing your brain would get back to sleep. But one of the problems with this, if you're lying in bed awake too long, is your brain can then start to associate being in bed with this feeling of wakefulness and frustration. So sleep experts advise that if you've been awake for more than 20 minutes, you get out of bed and go to another room and just do something gentle, like a little bit of reading or some breathing exercises in low light. Try and avoid screens and bright light. And when you feel drowsy, then that's the time to go back to bed. Now, it can obviously be difficult if you're sharing your bed with another person, but even a short amount of time in another room can help you re-establish that connection between your bed and sleep. So tip number 4, all about the light. So how much natural light do you get during the day? Because it's one of the most powerful and underused regulators of sleep. So light helps set your biological clock. So back to the hypothalamus. Remember I said that's the brain's control and command center. And that has an effect from light. So when you go out in the morning and the light hits your retinas, it sends an electrical signal through the brain to your hypothalamus. That then sends a signal to something called your pineal gland, and that's what produces the sleep hormone melatonin. So when you get light on your eyes, through the brain goes the electrical signal down to the pineal to turn down melatonin production, and that makes you feel more awake. And then conversely, when it's dark, melatonin production ramps up, getting you ready for sleep. So obviously we can utilize this. So if you're getting up in the morning, preferably with a couple of hours of waking up and going outside and getting some daylight on your eyes, it doesn't matter if it's a cloudy day, that's going to help set your body clock. And conversely, at night, you want to be avoiding bright light, so nice, relaxing, dim light to get your body and your brain ready for bed. So tip number 5 is for you if when you're lying there at 3 a.m, it's worry keeping you up. So worrying in the middle of the night is incredibly common and it can feel relentless. Now your brain is never going to be at its problem solving best in the early hours when you're half awake. And turning a problem over and over in your mind is a recipe for not getting back to sleep. So one technique that can really help is something called a worry diary. So this is essentially a brain dump of everything that's bothering you in the middle of the night. Scribble it down if you are able, i.e. able to turn on a light. If you can talk again, if you're not sharing your bed with someone or they're a really deep sleeper, you can also leave a voice note. And promise yourself you'll look at them in the morning, because getting them out of your head and down onto paper is what's going to give you that distance. And when you do come back to them in the cold light of day, they're going to feel a lot more manageable. Now, I can do an entire video on the process of keeping a worry diary. If you would like, just let me know in the comments. Otherwise, in the description, I'll link to a really helpful NHS page on the subject. So those are my top 5 sleep tips. Having a set bedtime, a wind down hour, getting out of bed when you can't sleep, the strategic use of light, and a worry diary. And now for the bonus I promised you. This is a breathing and visualization technique that I use in the middle of the night when I can't get back to sleep and find it quite useful. So what you want to do is imagine your breath, and you imagine you breathing in through the soles of your feet. Yes, I know that sounds really weird. Just stay with me for a couple of minutes here. So you breathe in through the sole of your feet and you want to visualize your breath. However you want to visualize it is up to you. Visualize it as light, visualize it as movement, or just imagine your breath coming up through the soles of your feet as far as your knees. And then when you exhale, the breath goes out, down your legs, past your ankles and back out the soles of your feet again. So you want to do that a couple of times and then go a little bit higher. So you're then breathing through the soles of your feet and you visualize and imagine the breath going up to your hips and then back down and out the soles of your feet as you exhale. And you can repeat this at different points in the body. So your waist, your heart, the center of your chest, your neck, the crown of your head. If you get that far, I rarely do. And the reason this works, there's a couple of reasons. So one, it slows down your breathing and it just helps calm down your nervous system. And it also gives your brain something to focus on rather than, your deadline, what you've got to buy from the supermarket and cook for dinner, and I've got to pick up the kids from football. It gives your brain something else to focus on. So give it a go and let me know if it helps. Now I'll cover alcohol, caffeine and food and their effects on sleep in a future video. But for now, I'm going to leave a video here, which is number 2 in my energy series about building sustainable meals, and I'll see you there.